Oh, hello everyone, and welcome here to the Saint Anselm Coaches Show, heard every Tuesday on location here on the Hilltop from 12 to 1 on Tuesdays at Davison Hall, aired on ESPN New Hampshire and ESPNNewHampshire.com from 5:30 to 6:30 every Tuesday. I'm Nick Anastos. Tonight's show, a packed one. We'll speak momentarily with head coach Patrick Murphy of the football team. The Hawks open up the season with a 42-28 defeat against Bowie State. Second half of the show, we'll welcome in head volleyball coach Dan Young and senior captain middle blocker Vivian Fitzgerald. We'll recap the week that was in Saint Anselm Athletics and preview the upcoming week as well. To my right, Patrick Murphy returning for the first half of the show. And coach, a disappointing defeat. Your team hung in there. The game was tied after the first quarter. It was tied at halftime. It was tied after three quarters. And then back-to-back scores by the opposition within a minute really sealed the deal. What'd you say to the guys after a heartbreaking loss?
The big thing for us was you can't make mistakes like that in the fourth quarter against good football teams. And Bowie's a good football team. I think we're a good football team. I think we definitely learned from that. And, we need to take that, learn the lessons, and move forward.
Now, there were some positives, of course. Particularly on the defensive side. You look at the box score, you see the rushing yards, you see the total yards that Bowie was able to do, but that didn't tell the whole story, did it?
Yeah, not at all. I think defense kept us in the game throughout the entire day. Our offense struggled quite a bit to put together consistent drives, and we really only had one true drive in the game, and defense creating turnovers, giving us opportunities in the opponent's red zone allowed us to have a couple quick scores offensively. But defense really kept us in the game.
Yeah, 4 turnovers forced. My eye was on linebacker Mike Tatro, the junior, who just seemed to be all over the field.
Yeah, Mike had a great game, very opportunistic, had an interception, a fumble recovery that ran back within the 10, and did an excellent job overall. I think him, Carroll Bailey, Isaac Jorgensen, and Andrew Leibowitz were really standouts on that side of the ball.
Yeah, I thought the D-line, too, at times was able to step up. Now, for those who were unable to, a little feedback there, we apologize. Those that were unable to make it to the game or listen on the Hawks broadcast did see that the defense, I thought, gave the offense enough opportunities in the second half to either take the lead or tie the football game. The D-line at times really stood up, solidified the run defense, and got the Bowie State Bulldog off the field on third down.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they've worked hard, that entire group. Defensively, that's been a point of emphasis since the end of last season, and I think it's going to pay dividends throughout the year this year.
Anybody up front catch your eye?
Yeah, Andrew Leibowitz had a phenomenal game. He's had a great camp.
How about Cam Foster?
Cam Foster coming back off a knee injury. Catastrophic knee injury a year ago. First action back, was solid throughout the day. Josh Cheever, had another, usual output for him as far as his performance goes, which was rock solid.
Patrick Murphy is our guest here, joining us on the Saint Anselm Coaches Show. St. A's drops to 0-1 after a home defeat against Bowie State. Now, on the other side of the football, the offense, it seemed like, Coach, in the first half, business as usual. Andrew Murphy, 3 touchdown passes in the first half, and your team able to put up 21 points at the break.
Yeah, I mean, that's somewhat misleading. I don't think we played well the entire day. I think we had one drive where we really did what we needed to do offensively. Outside of that, it was short field position that kind of led to a couple of easy scores. Our expectations on that side of the ball are much higher than how we performed the other day.
You mentioned last week that Bowie's strength was their secondary on defense.
Yeah.
How much did that factor in?
It definitely was a factor. They played well. Take nothing away from Bowie State. They played an excellent game. We did some things to help them as far as our play was concerned. I think we tried to do too much at the quarterback position, and I don't think we did enough at the receiver position or offensive line-wise. I don't think we played to the level of expectations for either of those groups.
What did you say to those guys?
Exactly that. It's pretty easy to take a look at the film that we watched Sunday morning and say we didn't live up to our ability.
And was there a particular explanation for that, or just sometimes the guys up front?
No, I think you got to credit Bowie State. They played extremely well. we did not play to our ability level, and then it just steamrolled from there, and we expect more.
It seems like it has to start up front. I know even casual football fans know that games are won and lost up front. And the O-line just, not only in the passing game, didn't get really any push in the run either. You look at Keith Charles' stats in the box score, they look pretty good at first glance, 10 carries, 50 yards, but then the long was 45.
Sure.
That means 9 carries for 5 yards.
Absolutely. I mean, in my opinion, we got out-muscled up front, and we were out-physicaled on the perimeter, and that's what we showed the guys on film on Sunday, and it's pretty self-evident that they didn't play to their ability level.
Andrew Murphy, 19 of 39. How much of that was on him versus the protection issues?
I think a good amount. I mean, there was a couple of situations where there was some pressure, but the vast majority of his play was attributed to Andrew, and I think he'd own up to that. He did not play well, trying to do too much, in my opinion, instead of just taking what they gave us and being efficient. Went looking for the big play, and the big play bit us in the butt because of it.
That's, as we speak here with head football coach Patrick Murphy, following a 42-28 Saint Anselm defeat. That's one of the things we've talked about before. We've talked about off air was the fact that the big play in the past has come back to bite you. But overall, you're pretty pleased with the containment, or no?
Yeah, defensively, I thought we did a great job with that. We had a big return on a kickoff return, and they had a big return on a punt return. But other than that, I thought our kicking game was very good. That was solid. I thought we played good red zone defense. They had to earn every point they got, and it wasn't an easy handoff and run in, or a lot of their scores were on third down. So I mean, we're making them earn it, and I think if we continue to do that throughout the season, we're going to be fine defensively. We've got to be much more efficient than we were offensively, and sometimes it's just simply taking the simple check down instead of holding the ball and trying to go deep. And I think we'll be better in that area this week.
Are you surprised that now that the season is 1 week old, that the defense is seemingly ahead of the offense?
No, I don't think I'm surprised. We've always had the ability. I think it's a matter of playing to that ability and being consistent with it. And I think our guys have done a good job. Both our players and our coaches have done a good job with it on the defense side of the ball, being consistent with it since the start of camp.
Now, it seemed like you played a pretty clean game as well, which is always important to a head coach. Only 4 penalties, 30 yards, and really, Coach, with the 15-yard ejection on the targeting penalty, which is new this year, which I don't personally agree with.
Yeah.
You take that out of the picture, and really it was almost a flawless day.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we talk about is, no self-inflicted wounds, and it's something that we coach. We have 4 coaches every practice. Anytime we're in a team situation that have yellow flags, and they can throw them and basically officiate the game from a practice standpoint, and it's something that we get our players used to, and we examine on film, and it's something that we are serious about. Ball security and penalties is just don't beat yourself. Most games are lost, not won. Okay, in the standpoint that most teams give it away, and I think we gave it away the other day with the turnovers late in the game offensively, and it's something that we can't do in the future if we're going to expect to win against good football teams.
You're listening to the Saint Anselm Coaches Show here on ESPN New Hampshire and ESPNNewHampshire.com. Our guest is head football coach Patrick Murphy. Let's look ahead this week, Coach. First road game, it's the battle for the old bronze hawk. St. A's at Stonehill, rivalry that goes back some years. That's a 6 o'clock start, by the way, on Saturday. We know every time it seems like you get together with Stonehill, it's going to be a fist fight.
Yeah, they're always good games. Unfortunately, we've come out on the short end of the stick in the time I've been here. They're a very physical team.
But there have been competitive games.
Oh, yeah, very, very competitive games, but a loss is a loss. And,
right.
I and the rest of our team are sick of being close. It's time to start to put the hay in the barn and get it done and finish the game and come home with the trophy. They're a very well coached team. They're physical. They're a defensive-oriented team. They do quite a bit defensively as far as changing up their coverages. They're very physical up front. Offensively, they're going to be a ball control type offense. They want to hold the ball, they want to milk the clock, and they want to shorten the game as much as possible. So basically, they're a polar opposite of us.
But similar to Bowie in ways.
Similar to Bowie State, absolutely. They won't go to as much one back. They won't throw the ball to the degree that Bowie did. They certainly don't have the athlete at quarterback that Bowie does.
Right.
As far as the ability to run, their quarterback is an excellent drop back pass guy, but he's not going to hurt us with the feet.
Now, you mentioned some of the different looks that Stonehill is going to bring defensively. How do you, as a head coach preparing for Stonehill, factor into that?
Just like with everything else, you play the percentages, you try to paint the best possible picture of what our players are going to see, and then you prepare them for the alternative pictures, so to speak. We just had a quarterback meeting, which is why I was a little bit late getting down here, and just going through those with the guys, and we'll do that throughout the week.
And what does that consist of, the quarterback meetings? I always found that intriguing.
Yeah, it's presenting them with what we're going to do today, which is basically normal down and distance situations at practice today with our different personnel groupings against their defensive looks, what we're going to see. And to me, it's can we boil it down to take out the anomalies as much as possible and try to present to them a more consistent picture. It's either this or it's that. Meaning it's, you might be 8 different defensive fronts, 8 different coverages in a particular formation against personnel groupings, but take out the anomalies. How will it affect us in our personnel? And then try to present them with a picture that how would we defend ourselves in this particular look, and how would they do the same? And then try to clean it up and give them options versus each.
Andrew Murphy, the quarterback, 19 of 39, 2 interceptions, did throw 3 first-half touchdown passes. In the past, last year, you guys lost some games in the back half after he became the starter, but he always played well, even in those losses.
Yeah.
How has he reacted to kind of a so-so performance in the opener?
It's like in boxing. Everyone's got a plan until you got hit. This is the first time he's really taken a hit, and he did not play to his ability level. And the thing that I like about him is he's a mentally tough kid. His first reaction wasn't, point the finger, wasn't, what about those guys? It was, look at me, I didn't play well. I expect myself.
So he was
to play
accountable,
yeah,
first and foremost.
I expect to play myself, at a higher level, and that's great. You want that from your leader, because if the leader can't act like that, how can you expect the rest of the offense to do the same?
Patrick Murphy, head football coach, joining us here on the Saint Anselm Coaches Show. Nick Anastos here from Davison Hall every Tuesday from 12 to 1. Second half, we'll talk volleyball with Coach Young and senior captain Vivian Fitzgerald. A little bit more about Stonehill. We know traditionally, year in and year out, they're a pretty good team in the Northeast 10. Seems like the conference overall got off to a pretty good start over the weekend. What do you tell the guys now that you've had a full real game now under your belts? Conference play is really kind of a different animal. It certainly takes up the meat of the schedule. Any emphasis added here in week 2 because of the opponent, or not?
I don't know. That's not how we operate. We're going to operate as every game's the same. We have a process, believe in the process, go from point A to point B to point C. And it's just a matter of dotting the I's, crossing the T's, taking care of controlling what we can control. All right, and if we do that, we'll be fine. If we play to our ability level, if we don't have that turnover, if we don't have 2 blown assignments in the kicking game, we win the game the other day against a very good football team. And who our opponent is week to week doesn't matter. If we can control us and control what we can control, we'll win the game. The opponent has no say in it. And, this is something that we preach constantly. And like I said before, most games are lost, not won. And if we don't beat ourselves, don't act as what I say all the time is double agents. Don't be a double agent. Play for one team, and that's Saint Anselm Hawks. If we do that on a consistent basis, we'll win the game.
Anybody surprise you in a positive way over the weekend?
I don't think it was a surprise, but I thought Shane Grayson was outstanding. as far as punting and kicking throughout the day.
He got a couple good ones off.
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, he can be a weapon, and I think he was outstanding in his area. He fielded one
and
bad
that, by the way, is not really a weapon you've had.
No, absolutely not.
In the past.
Absolutely not. It's been very inconsistent at both punter and kicker. And
so does that change up?
Absolutely.
That's got to change up the mentality of a coach, knowing that you can, on 4th and long or whatever, in field goal range now.
We can flip field position in the punting game.
Yep.
We get inside the 30-yard line now. I don't have to go for it on 4th down. Unless the game either the score or the clock is telling me otherwise. But we can go for it. We can send out the field goal unit and have a legitimate shot of having a high percentage of 3 points being on the board. I mean, Shane is a weapon, and he's worked extremely hard on the off season, and he wants to be very good at it. And he was very good at it on Saturday.
Didn't you say he went to a kicking
Yeah,
camp?
he has a private coach for kicking.
There you go.
So, I mean, this is what he does. This is all he does.
And it's paying off.
Yeah, it is. And he's done a great job. But like I said, it wasn't a surprise, but he was outstanding the other day. I think defensively, and again, this is not a surprise, but it's going to be a surprise to a lot of people in the NE10. Carroll Bailey, I thought, had one of the best games out of anyone on the field, and he was a legitimate force on both defense and special teams throughout the day, and he's been like that all camp. And I'm looking forward to see these guys continue to play throughout the year.
Now, Bailey was particularly, I thought, outstanding in red zone coverage, knocked away a few passes in the end zone, and in run support as well, made some tackles at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
Having that kind of an athlete, that kind of a ball hawk, so to speak, do you maybe roll the dice a little bit more defensively, maybe try to bring him in the backfield, or how do you utilize a guy like that?
We sent him on a couple corner blitzes because of how physical he is. But, I mean, what it does is it's kind of like a good kicker on the offensive side of the ball. It opens up the menu. When you have a player like that, he effectively shut down at least 1/3 of the field that he was on, both in the run game and pass game. He just shut it down. So when you're forcing quarterbacks, particularly at our level, to have to throw the ball to the wide side of the field, arm strength comes into play. It allows the defenders to that side of the ball longer to break on the ball if the ball's in the air that much longer. So it really does become a weapon and takes away a lot of easy plays for offensive units, and he did a great job.
Speaking at the secondary, you guys became thin quickly. In fact, 3 players on one play got injured in just a bizarre turn of events in the third quarter. Safety Trevor Jesse did not return. We saw Bailey go down at least briefly. He was able to come back in. What's the state of the team right now from a health perspective?
Good.
So everybody's okay.
Yeah, no catastrophic injuries, thankfully. Guys should rebound nicely from the game the other day, and we expect full recoveries pretty quickly and be ready to go.
And that particular situation forced some of the reserves to get on the field and make some plays in the secondary. What'd you think there?
Oh, I thought they did a good job. I mean, we were able to do some things this past spring and early in camp and moving some offensive guys into the secondary. I think we're much more athletic there than we've been in the past. I think we have a lot more experience than we've had there in the past, and I think it's going to pay dividends down the road as the season progresses. Again, injuries accumulate, and those
need depth.
Yeah, those guys are going to be playing a role for us, a major role at some point throughout the year.
Coach Patrick Murphy, our guest, head football coach Patrick Murphy. Stonehill and St. A's get together at Stonehill Saturday night at 6 o'clock. Couple minutes left here with the coach. We'll talk volleyball in the second half hour with senior captain, middle blocker Vivian Fitzgerald, and head volleyball coach Dan Young. Coach, how do you get the offense back on track this week at practice?
Do what we do. We're not going to hit the panic button. We're not going to.
But do you put an emphasis maybe on a particular?
The major emphasis is, it's going to sound silly, is good decision making from the quarterback. It doesn't have to be great. He was trying to be great, and when you do that, you're not very great at all. And it's going to be blocking up front and playing to our ability level, playing physical at receiver. And I mean physical as far as receiving and physical as far as blocking, because we did neither on Saturday. the challenge has been thrown down as far as to those two groups, offensive line and receivers, to play tougher. We didn't on Saturday. We played cautious. We played, in my opinion, not to lose rather than to win the game.
Did the fact that it was week 1 factor into that at all, or no?
I think that's a factor. I think playing a good, like I said, take nothing away from Bowie. There's some good players on that side of the ball, and they made us earn it, and we didn't do it on a consistent basis. But I think we contributed to that, and I think they understand it. They saw it on film. They are very, very. Though both of those groups are very proud groups, and they hold each other accountable. They police each other very well, and I'm looking forward to see both of those groups play this week. But we're not going to hit the panic button. We're going to be who we are. We're going to do what we do, and we'll come out and we'll be better.
We talked briefly about your quarterback, Andrew Murphy, and how he kind of took responsibility for the loss, was accountable for his own actions. You see that from anyone else in the locker room after the game?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I don't know if there's an offensive player that was in the game the other day that thinks they played a great game. I think Keith had a good game, Keith Charles, but he didn't play a great game.
He was notable in special teams.
Yeah,
had a 50-yard, 60-yard kick return.
Absolutely. I mean, Keith's going to contribute, but I think if you ask him about his offensive play, he'll play better next week. He'll tell you. And the guys have high expectations on that side of the ball, in particularly, and they expect to be the best unit in the NE10. And we were a far cry from that on Saturday.
So the keys this weekend: physical play, particularly up front and on the outside with the receivers. Turnovers, obviously, which is a weekly key for sure. What else needs to go right to get the first win again at Stonehill?
Again, just play consistent football. Defense, we talked about this at the end of the game the other day. Is they played a good game on Saturday. Now they can't come out here and be missing in action this Saturday. We got to be consistent on that side of the ball. We've got to clean up the coverage units on special teams, and then we got to play to our ability on offense. We do that. We control the controllables, and just worry about ourselves. We just control what we can control. We'll win the game.
Good stuff, Coach.
Right,
Best
thanks,
of luck
Nick.
on the
Appreciate
road.
it.
It's the Battle of the Bronze Hawk, the old Bronze Hawk. St. A's at Stonehill. This is the Saint Anselm Coaches Show. Just heard from head football coach Patrick Murphy as the Hawks look for their first win of the season. Coming up on the other side, we'll talk volleyball with head volleyball coach Dan Young, senior captain, middle linebacker Vivian Fitzgerald. Also recap the week that was in St. A's athletics and preview the upcoming week as well. This is the Saint Anselm Coaches Show, heard every Tuesday from Davison Hall here on ESPN New Hampshire and ESPNNewHampshire.com. All right, welcome back here to the Saint Anselm Coaches Show. Nick Anastos with you from Davison Hall. We do this live every Tuesday from 12 to 1 here on the Hilltop. You can hear it aired on ESPN New Hampshire and on ESPNNewHampshire.com from 5:30 to 6:30 every Tuesday. Special thanks to head football coach Patrick Murphy. Coach gave us some good stuff in the first half hour. Hawks suffered a heartbreaker in the fourth quarter as they fall to 0-1 against Bowie State, but look to get their first win on the road this Saturday. The Battle of the Old Bronze Hawks as the Hawks take on the Skyhawks of Stonehill. All right, we're going to switch gears. We'll hear from the volleyball team in just a moment. Senior captain, middle blocker Vivian Fitzgerald will join us. We'll get to head coach Dan Young, but a quick recap. Volleyball jumped out to a 2-0 record on the young season with their participation in the Assumption Tri-Match back on Saturday. St. A's took down both Assumption 3-1 and Dominican College 3-0. Junior Shannon Douglas led with 10 kills, 11 digs against Assumption. Freshman Catherine Morgan took charge in the second match against Dominican with 10 kills and 11 digs of her own. Against the Greyhounds, senior Vivian Fitzgerald, who we'll hear from in just a moment, had 9 kills, while freshman Brenna Gladwell recorded 7 kills alongside 3 digs. Junior Natalie Steinwert also played well, aided the effort with 43 assists, 4 kills, 9 digs. Junior Melissa Jewett, 19 digs. And senior Kyla Gustavsson brought a pair of kills and 7 digs to the table. So a great start for the volleyball team. They're back at it tonight at home against Southern New Hampshire University. That's a 7:30 start if you want to catch that one right here at St. Anselm. Joined now by head volleyball coach Dan Young. Coach, first of all, congratulations on the 2-0 start to the season, and thanks for joining us here on the St. A's Coaches Show.
Thank you very much for having us.
How about the overall big picture here? Tell me a little bit about this volleyball team and your overall expectations for the season.
Our expectations are pretty simple. We're trying to get better every day. We want to improve on some of the things that we accomplished last season, and we're also looking to right some of the mistakes that we made last season and hope for improvement.
You lost what from a year ago?
We lost 2 great seniors last year. Margaret Tarashuk was a libero for 3 or 4 years here, and senior Megan Shettle, quality role player who gave us some depth off the bench. And we lost both of them, and their leadership and experience as well.
How do you replace leadership?
Well, one way is with leadership. I think we talked a lot about it last year as the season went on, trying to remind each other that just because you are not a captain doesn't mean it's your job to be a leader. And because of that, we have a lot of younger leaders kind of growing. And I think that's been one of the reasons for our early success has been the senior leadership, as well as the junior leadership that we're getting and helping the younger and underclassmen be able to play at a high level.
You got to have, I think, an overall good group, though, to find leaders. This is a good group you've got here?
I have a great group. And they're dedicated and they're hardworking. They came back in probably better shape than they did a year ago. And they don't stop working, even at last night's practice. They weren't overly satisfied to be 2-0, and they were already looking ahead at the next match. And I think coming from the seniors, they've done a good job of really making sure that we do go one match at a time and not, 2-0 is great, but there's another match the next day coming. So let's focus on that.
No doubt about it. Head volleyball coach Dan Young joining us here on the Saint Anselm Coaches Show on ESPN New Hampshire and ESPNNewHampshire.com. We're going to hear from Vivian Fitzgerald, one of the senior co-captains, one of the leaders of the squad. What is she like off the court?
Vivian's a great person. She's active and involved in the campus at all times during the day. She's active in campus ministry. She has a bunch of special projects that she's doing, including with the Special Olympics coming up, that she herself took the liberty to organize and bring awareness to it and bring it to the campus. So we're going to hold an event coming up later this fall that she put together herself. And I think that kind of defines her as a person a little bit. She's a giving person. It's kind of funny then when you bring her on the court, she's tenacious and she's relentless. So overall, she's a great quality person.
Yeah, the volleyball team overall does a lot of good things, a lot of community service. Dig Pink, I think, is the event you were referring to. That'll take place October the 26th at home against Pace. And also, as you mentioned, Vivian involved with the Special Olympics. So we'll hear all about that when we hear from Vivian here in just a few minutes on the St. Anselm Coaches Show. Anything you take that surprised you from over the weekend in that 2-0 start? Surprised you one way or the other?
I don't know if surprise is the right word. We're not 100% healthy right now. But I think what we have this year that maybe we have been lacking in the past at times is some depth at different positions, so that if one person goes down with an injury, we have those people that are able to step up right now. And I think we weren't surprised we had depth, but we proved we had depth a little bit this past weekend. I mean, Assumption is a league rival, and Dominican made the NCAA tournament last year. So to go back-to-back with them the way we did without maybe being at 100% is a great sign.
How much easier does that make your job as the head coach to have a deep team to work with?
It makes it a lot easier, and I'll be honest with you, on the court, it gives us a lot more options. We're able to sub some people. We're able to get bigger without maybe giving up the defense that we normally would, and we're able to get smaller without giving up any athleticism. So we're able to go both directions, so we can be a very high-powered offensive explosive team, or we can be a more well-rounded defensive team that will outlast you more than outpower you. And we have the ability to go both ways on that.
How important is it for a team to have an identity?
I don't know how important it is for a team to have an identity. I think it's important for a team to believe in their own identity. I think they really have to believe in themselves, which is something we worked on a lot last year, making sure we took every game heading into it as a chance to win. And at times last year that was difficult. We played the conference is extremely talented. New Haven, Adelphi, just to name some of the top ones. And if you don't show up ready to play, you're not going to win. And we had moments like that last year. However, we also battled through moments like that last year. This year, we're hoping not to get into those situations as often.
So one of the things you really try to stress as a coach is the mental part of it, the preparation part, showing up, expecting to win, because, again, that's half the battle, in my opinion.
It makes all the difference in the world, being confident and knowing that your skills will get you through. And I think our skill development this preseason has probably come far further than it did even all of last year. We're really pressing the fundamentals, working on making sure we're doing the mechanicals and the skills correctly, and I think that hopes to translate into wins.
Talking volleyball with Hawks head coach Dan Young here on the Saint Anselm Coaches Show. The Hawks welcome in crosstown rival Southern New Hampshire University tonight at 7:30 at Stoutenburg Gymnasium. Coach, we'll talk a little bit about the Penmen in just a moment. But first, I'd like the listeners to know a little bit more about your background. How'd you end up here at St. Ace?
Well, I was fortunate enough to be hired coming out of Salem High School, right down the road, so I was able to get that opportunity.
So are you a New Hampshire guy?
I am. I was born in Salem.
Attaboy.
Raised in Salem. So, and I've also been extensively involved with the volleyball kind of community, different clubs, different organizations throughout New Hampshire.
What's the biggest difference, besides the obvious, between high school and college volleyball?
The speed of the game is much quicker, and obviously the overall power and size. But the tempo of the ball moves a lot quicker, definitely.
Tonight, as we mentioned, Southern New Hampshire comes to town. What do you know about the Penmen?
They're growing. They're getting better and better every time we see them. Peter Vitteri's done a good job with that group. He's had a real strong freshman class last year. He has another transfer in this year that's going to make them very deep at the middle hitter position. And they have a good all-around skill set that makes them challenging when they can get the ball to their big hitters. We hope to out-defend them a little bit more tonight, and that's kind of our goal heading into it. But they're always a team that likes to come in swinging.
How do you game plan in volleyball? Because again, I don't know much about the sport. It just seems like there's a lot going on very quickly. You mentioned the speed of the game. How much game planning goes into each match?
I'll be honest with you, it changes as the season goes. At this time of the season, we're more worried about our side of the net and what we're trying to do. And that's a long process. You can identify certain players who you may want to target a little bit more on an opposing team, but with the way the stats are right now, we're not even looking at those. We're just worried about our side of the net and trying to do the best job we can. And if at the end of the day a team outplays us and outbeats us, then okay, we'll move on to the next day. But right now we're just going day by day trying to play our best.
Coach, best of luck tonight. Thanks a lot. Interesting conversation for sure. And we'll talk again down the road here on the Saint Anselm Coaches Show.
Thank you very much for having us.
That is Dan Young, head volleyball coach, joining us here at Davidson Hall. Great stuff, by the way, and I have a little bit of background with volleyball. I covered college volleyball before. If you're unfamiliar with it, get familiar with it, because it's a fast, entertaining sport that oftentimes really wields a lot of drama as well. So volleyball fans, head down to Stoutenburg Gymnasium tonight, 7:30 start, and a rivalry game, so to speak, as well, between Saint Anselm and Southern New Hampshire. Keeping the volleyball theme going here in part 2 of the show, we welcome in senior captain, middle blocker Vivian Fitzgerald, who I had the honor to meet before we got on the air.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Yeah. Exciting stuff, an exciting start to the season for sure. What was the key to the win, the 2 wins over the weekend?
Definitely keeping our competitive energy up and making sure that we keep the bar high and don't play down to anyone's level. It's really just about focusing on your own side, and then yes, it's who you're playing, but you really have to focus on what you're doing.
Now, as a senior co-captain, part of your job is to kind of police the locker room to a degree, to make sure that your teammates are engaged. And as we just heard from Coach, he says, you know what, this group has come a long ways in terms of preparation and getting ready to play. As a senior, how big of a role do you have in getting your teammates, quote unquote, ready to play?
Well, a lot of the happens with our team is definitely in like the music. I feel like is the definite pump up for us, and
So
I
you guys
know.
like the music.
We like the music, yeah. Working on a CD right now. Wedge is working on it. Melissa Jewett. She's doing a good job. So
What kind of music you guys like? What gets the team fired up?
with our team, it's a lot of techno actually.
Techno.
And yeah, not too many words, which I could always use some more of, but you know, it has a good beat. You know.
Do you like techno personally?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
good. It's
All right.
good.
Little different, I suppose.
Yeah.
Usually it's rock and roll or hip hop, but techno works. Whatever works, I suppose, to get your team ready to go. Tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got here to St. A's. You transferred, of course, from a Northeast 10 rival and originally hailed from Illinois.
Yes.
So how did you end up here in Manchester, New Hampshire?
Well, I originally got recruited to Stonehill, which is in Easton, Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was first looking at schools, I knew I was looking at school in Texas, school in North Carolina, school in Boston. So I knew I didn't want to stay in the Midwest, kind of explore a little bit. And then.
But no Texas, huh?
Texas,
that
no.
didn't intrigue you. Okay.
Maybe next time. I want to go on to get my doctorate in psychology, so maybe next time.
There you go.
But I really like Stonehill. It's a great school. But I had a little bit of trouble with the volleyball team and with the coach in particular. But we worked out our differences, and I decided to transfer to St. A's. And I actually have a teammate who is a junior right now, Natalie Steinwart, and she's from my high school. And she told me how much she loved it. And when I came visited, I fell in love with it as well. So
seems like volleyball is a much different deal, so to speak, out in the Midwest. At least that's what you're telling me off air.
It's very intense, yes.
It's one of the premier sports, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, did you have a lot of coaches from this area come out to the Midwest? Because it seems like more than a coincidence that you and your high school teammate both were recruited by schools in the Northeast 10.
A lot of volleyball recruiting is actually done online. So
really?
yeah, there's a lot of like recruit me websites, and my dad actually made me a website when I was being recruited. It was vivianfitzgerald.com. It's pretty cool. It doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately, but.
Now your dad, you were telling me, was your basketball coach.
Yes.
In high school as well. How was that playing for Pops?
It was good. The rides home sometimes felt really long because he kept asking me things like, well, what was Kendall thinking right there? I'm like, I don't know, Dad. I don't know what Kendall's thinking. But other than that, it was good. He's really into, like, pumping our team up, and he's really big in, like, the metaphors and really, like, focusing on the mindset of a champion.
No, he's a coach.
Yes.
So should be expected.
Yes.
Speaking with senior middle blocker, one of the captains, Vivian Fitzgerald here of the Saint Anselm volleyball team here on the Saint Anselm Coaches Show. Hawks opening up at home tonight against crosstown rival Southern New Hampshire. You were telling me again off air a little bit more about your background. You started playing volleyball in the 4th grade.
Yep.
I'm not sure that there's any 4th grade volleyball programs in the state of New Hampshire. So again, that kind of underlies the importance of volleyball in the Midwest. So was it love at first sight for you at 10 years old when you first started playing?
Well, I started playing for Sports Performance Volleyball Club in Aurora, Illinois. And it's a very competitive club. People travel from all across the state of Illinois to go there. They host something called Summer League, where all the states around us come and play on the weekends. And we have the like Power League, and we all get to play each other at different rankings each weekend.
Wow.
It's actually pretty typical for people to start in about 5th grade for girls. It's almost like how girls here play a lot of soccer and field hockey when they're younger. For us, it's like basketball and volleyball. So
that seems like quite a commitment to have states coming into Illinois and multi-hour drives.
Sports Performance motto is actually commitment to excellence. So we're very competitive nature over there.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Now, what's the biggest differences you've seen from this part of the country to the Midwest? A lot of similarities.
A lot of similarities.
But any major differences other than the emphasis on volleyball is more apparent in Illinois?
Well, I love the fact there's an ocean out here. I think that's great. All we have at home is Lake Michigan, which is huge, don't get me wrong, but the fact they're actually by the ocean, it kind of blows my mind just a little bit. People are actually a lot friendlier than what you hear in the Midwest because you have those like New England coldness. But
right. You haven't found that to be true, though.
Not so much. I feel if you smile at them first, then they open up to you. I think it's hard for them to talk to you first, but I'm a very
interesting
outgoing person, I guess. So
Tell me a little bit more about your teammates.
We have a great team this year. We have 3 seniors, so Kylie, Kyla, and I. We have 7 juniors, which they're so much fun. They all actually live together, and which we were a little bit afraid about, but it's working out great. So
The seniors live together?
Kylie and I actually live together. Yes.
Yeah.
And
So-
then Kyla lives about next door, so we're all close.
I guess that has its positives and negatives, I would
Mhm.
think. Sometimes you just flat out get sick of the other person. If you're
We're hoping
living
that
with them
doesn't
that
happen
long.
anytime soon.
No. But overall, it's a pretty strong unit in terms of being close.
Oh yeah, and our freshmen came in and they weren't that shy, which is great because a lot of times you have to work your freshmen into it. But they came in ready to go. All of them came in great shape, and a couple of them are actually going to be playing tonight, which is great for them, and we're really excited to have them.
So take me to the off season, because it seems like it's really a 12-month process. I mean, there's never really an off day, an off week, an off month. What do you do when you're not playing volleyball to stay in shape?
Well, in particular, last summer I joined a beach volleyball league actually, and so it's kind of the same thing of playing club volleyball, but it was on the sand, so
It's a little slower, right?
it's a little slower. But in the sand itself, it's definitely more challenging, and there are different rules. But coach gave us a workout packet over the summer, so we're just really sticking strong to that. And I'm also a volleyball and basketball coach at summer camps.
Oh, all right.
So I
Which ones?
Ones from my high school.
Oh, so you went back home and worked with them. That's good.
Yeah, I get to coach the 5th through seniors. Well, my dad takes over the seniors, but I get to help out and get to run around and see how out of basketball shape I am. But
Now, also, you are working on is it a sports psychology degree?
well, I'm a psychology major, and then eventually I hope to specialize in sports psychology. But next I want to get my doctorate in clinical psychology.
Now, what does sports psychology exactly entail? It sounds fascinating.
It's very fascinating. What we do is you work with the coaches and the players, and you help the players stay cool in pressure situations. You figure out what coaching style they best respond to, and then you also work with the coaches, set up the best atmosphere for the athletes, and kind of communication each way. Work with their mindset for a winning attitude and everyone's confidence. And
I guess the idea would be to just stop creating Bob Knights and coaches that just flip their scripts sometimes.
yeah.
Joined by senior captain, middle blocker Vivian Fitzgerald here. A few minutes left on the Saint Anselm Coaches Show, recorded live every Tuesday here from 12 to 1 at Davison Hall on campus. Heard each Tuesday night, ESPN New Hampshire, from 5:30 to 6:30. Big home game. Get more of a rise playing at home in front of the fans?
I'm so excited to play at home right now. It's our first home game opener, so at 7:30 for everyone in Davison Hall. Please come join. It's against SNU, so it's a bit of a crosstown rivalry. So we're excited to get in there and kind of show them that we got the New Hampshire state covered. So
Coach gave us a little bit of a scouting report on Southern New Hampshire, but what do you know about the opponent tonight?
well, I know that they go to their middles a lot, so we had worked a lot on blocking last night at practice. But like I said before, it's really focusing more on your own side, so that way you just stay in a competitive mindset.
Is it more about the things you guys are trying to do at this point of the season as opposed to the opponent? Because Coach seems to think he seems to think that, you know what, if we just take care of what we need to take care of, the rest will kind of take care of itself.
Exactly. The best thing to have in sports in general is a short-term memory. So you just go point by point, game by game. It's got to keep going at it.
Good stuff. It's spoken like a true senior as well. That's
Thank you.
A good answer. Best of luck tonight. That is senior captain, middle blocker, Vivian Fitzgerald. The pleasure was mine.
Thank you so much.
St. A's, 7:30, home opener, volleyball, and what better opponent than a crosstown rival? Long history, of course, across all sports between Southern New Hampshire, formerly New Hampshire College, and the St. Anselm Hawks. All right, let's recap the week that was. We'll start with men's soccer. They jumped out to a 1-1 record with their participation in the inaugural Catholic Cup that was held at Stonehill College. In the first round of the tournament, the Hawks took down Stonehill 1-0, thanks to a goal from sophomore Sean Smith, who scored off a Brian Ayers corner kick. In the championship round, the Hawks fell to Assumption 3-0. On the weekend, senior goaltender Mark Kotsopoulos made 10 total saves. Women's soccer 1-0-1 after their participation in the inaugural Catholic Cup held at Assumption. In the first game, St. A's faced off with Stonehill and came away with a 1-1 tie. Junior Alexa Lucci picked up a Rachel Gillies corner kick and sent the ball to the back of the net for a come-from-behind tie. In the second game of the Catholic Cup, in the consolation round, the Hawks were limited to a victory with a goal from freshman Kendra Bonzar. In field hockey, and by the way, St. A's field hockey on the road at Merrimack tonight, if you want to check that one out, a 7 o'clock start at Martone Majale Field. The St. A's field hockey team posted a 2-0 win against Dowling. That was in the season opener on Sunday. Senior Elizabeth Sears potted both goals for the Hawks, while sophomore goaltender Shauna Whittemore stopped both shots she faced for the shutout. Whittemore was named the Northeast 10 Goalkeeper of the Week for her efforts on Sunday. In cross country, the cross country teams hosted the 32nd annual Shacklet Invitational that was on campus on Saturday. Both squads finished 5th at the 8-team meet. Sophomore Kevin Morse paced the men as he finished the 8K course 15th with a time of 28 minutes 14 seconds. Freshman Emily Minerts led the women with a 19th place showing in a 5K time of just 20 minutes and 16 seconds. That is a look at the week that was. Now we'll look at the week ahead. And as always, for more information, including live stats and live video links, they are available at SaintAnselmHawks.com. And I believe I have the schedule coming up. I must have misplaced it. Well, we know a couple of things for sure. Tonight, St. A's takes on Southern New Hampshire. That's volleyball at 7:30. That's right here at Stoutenburg Gymnasium. The football team will battle for the Old Bronze Hawk on Saturday at Stonehill. That is a 6 o'clock start. Women's soccer. We'll hear from head coach Tony Wallace next week. So we'll talk some women's soccer, which is always a pleasure. Next week, as they began 1-0-1, as I mentioned, field hockey, a 2-0 win over Dowling, so they are unbeaten right now. And, of course, cross country performing pretty well at the Shacklet Invitational 2 days ago. I'm Nick Anastos. This has been the Saint Anselm Coaches Show. I want to thank a few people. Thanks to Eric Coplin and, of course, Tyler Fleming of the St. A's Athletic Department for setting this whole thing up. Athletic Director Kelly Higgins, of course. His efforts are always appreciated. Special thanks to head football coach Patrick Murphy for joining me in the first part of the show. And then the the volleyball conversation was a treat as well. Special thanks to Dan Young and senior captain Vivian Fitzgerald for joining me moments ago. Next week, more football talk. Hopefully we'll have a chance to catch up with Coach Murphy after a win as St. A's visits Stonehill on Saturday. We'll also talk women's soccer, as I mentioned, with the head coach on the other side. Usually the second half hour is the non-football hour, so Tony Wallace will join us between 12:30 and 1 live, and you can hear, of course, the St. A's show every night, Tuesday nights, 5:30 to 6:30, both on the air at ESPN New Hampshire Radio and online at ESPNNewHampshire.com. Until then, my name is Nick Anastos saying so long. This has been the Saint Anselm Coaches Show right here on ESPN New Hampshire and ESPNNewHampshire.com.